we are wrapping that up, and we're also gonna make sure that that Bright, our darling gnome, because I know Fluffy Sheep can hear me, will be able to do the things that she wanted at the crater.
Yes, absolutely. Yay. So tonight will be resolution to downtime stuff. We will get details. We will get the crew back together here, and Jaiden will have a chance. There's some storyline and some functionality stuff, some form and function I want to offer to Jade, and then for Bright, there is some. Meanwhile, at the same place, just further back in time, we're going to go back to the crater, and Bright can choose to explore something or whatnot. So, in fact, why don't we'll hop to it when we're going to have Jaiden, who has been hanging out, not necessarily not doing anything, but, I mean, you've been there on the scene to the city that was the epicenter of some kind of magical fiery rupture. And of course, in a big city, there's always things that are happening too, within itself, let alone with any of the interactions from the outsiders from the Shadowheart Empire who've been coming in and, not... I mean, causing trouble to a degree, but this is trouble that is maybe cultural. It's you're just hearing some language, you're seeing some fashions and some other things that are slowly, importing themselves into society. They're secreting themselves, for lack of a better term. And it's still life, life is going on. It's a shame that, there's still crime and murder, theft, vampires. Although, as far as you've known, and you do have a person on the inside in the form of the aspiring and continually, social ladder climbing Miss Crumb, or Miss Quum, as you've been learning the language. She's continued to do her thing and been sort of like a beacon for vampires to try and give them what we might consider to be almost like an Xavier's home for gifted kids, where she's taking in these vampires and she's trying to make sure that this is not a... they're not going loose on the streets. They're not ripping people apart in the middle of the night, or, she's trying to bring a sense of order. And in so doing, I mean, Jaiden is someone who might respect order. She would have had a conversation with you about building, how would you build a structure? How can we find creative uses for these people who have been gathering here in the Wild Cherry? And so in a sense, she's doing some downtime here with you if you're willing to give her advice on regimental structure, about, duty lists, things along those lines. And she's been able to just try and make this wayward home for vampires be something functional, where people, the residents, beyond those who are using it as an actual hotel, are producing for the hotel, but they're also getting to be a normal-ish person, if that makes sense. So this has been going on in the background. Of course, you've been getting language lessons in Northern Common, as we've been calling it. And of particular note here during I guess it would be sort of an ambiguous several more weeks until the rest of the party would end up sailing or teleporting back, because your time is a lot more, I mean, it's fluid. We weren't in a harsh breakup of week, as per the travel legs for the others. So in this time, while you were out perhaps on one of your patrols, even if you're not in active law enforcement, at least here, you still walk the block. I don't know, maybe if someone's in trouble, you can lend a hand, or I don't know, a kid stole an apple from a cart, and you just sort of like catch him by the collar and teach him a lesson or something, as you would in this case. You are. One moment here. You are going to meet someone who reveals that she had seen you in the casino a short while back. This would probably be at least a week or two, a week and a half prior. And she wanted to ask you about the armor that you had recovered, as that was something that she had an active interest in as well, and was trying to do the same thing as you, to try and meet the person who bought it, to try and become this high stakes like a high roller. And she had seen that you were invited into the back room, and ended up coming into possession of it. She is going to. Her name is Mercury, and she is a very serene-looking tiefling. She is orange of color and has ram's horns for her manifestation of them. Her tail ends in a small split, and she dresses like a how we might consider like an old proper school marm. She has very nice features. She almost has that kind of like corseted blouse, a little bit of flare around the collar, a very nice below the knees ruffled skirt, and carries herself proper. Maybe almost like a Mary Poppins might be a little bit better if that's bringing an image to mind.
It is, but not the one you're trying to imply.
Oh, okay. Did I miss a Mary Poppins show somewhere, I guess?
Is he cool?
Apparently I'm not getting a reference.
Oh, Matty has not seen Guardians of the Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
I swear that I have.
You look like Mary Poppins.
Oh,
is he cool?
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yep. All right. So no, not in that type, but yeah, now I. But so she's very, finely dressed, rather sharply dressed, has a very, like, a serene grace about her. Not proper, like, she walks with, she walks all puckered up and, like, above everyone. She does have a finishing school kind of demeanor to her. But yes, Miss Mercury finds you, confesses that she had seen you in the casino, and we can have some establishing conversation here.
Wow. I'm sorry to end up hearing that your luck was not quite as good at the table, but well, it's a thing that's neither here nor there, I suppose. So what exactly had your fascination with the armor in proper tradition?
Well, it had attracted my attention as I am a studier of the arcane practices, and the armor itself has a particular aura, a palpable kind of a call, or a resonance, and it was something that I felt synchronized to, I suppose, something that I should study. Perhaps if you really appreciate a particular, flavor of tea, and you walk by a cafe and you smell it, where you just have to go and get a cup as it reminds you just of comfort or something along those lines.
That may be the case, but it seems to be a long and arduous trek for ascent, so to speak.
Well, it is, and it is out of an abundance of caution that ultimately I wanted to reveal myself and my interest in that armor, as I need to know that if you intend on wearing it, that this item doesn't cause you undue frustrations, as armor can often bear certain detriments, curses, if you wish to use a common term for it. And I would like to, if that is the case, I would like to ensure that any such maladies are removed.
And what ends up bringing that particular piece of concern? As much as I might appreciate the gesture, you had an interest in it yourself. Now you're talking about removing potential curses or ailments. You notice somehow that may come across, given that we hardly know each other, Madame Mercury.
Of course. It is your property. You have won it rightfully. And I suppose this is a way that I can simply have my chance to look at it while also performing a service. I am someone who doesn't hold back my gifts from others. I am someone who enjoys meeting new people. And if I can help them, then I would love to offer that help.
I give it some thought. Going to insight that, because I'm hesitant to trust this tiefling.
Sure. Like many tieflings, she can be a little difficult to read at first. However, being a seasoned investigator, you know that just because she doesn't have pupils, you still look for like the little veins in the eyes and whatnot to see if she's shifting around. Your eyes will find their way to her tail to see if it's flicking or if it's doing kind of a nervous twitch. There's still a lot of body language, arguably. If the eyes are more difficult, the tail, in many cases, can also give away a tiefling's mood or their ability to conceal a lie. She, in your opinion, though, is very well composed, and her tail is her tail has a very pleasant, a little pleasant sway back and forth. Nothing about her appears that she's lying or is acting in a mischievous fashion.
Very well, if you wish to end up seeing the piece, I'm not objecting to that, but it will be under my supervision.
Of course. I'll even appear where you would like me to be. The circumstances can be completely within your control. I would, however, just like to see this piece because, well, I'm a bit of a history buff in my studies of things, and this would be looking at a piece of history, I believe. It would fulfill me. It would just fulfill me. It's not a common armor that you find nowadays.
True, but you end up saying history, implying that you might know the history of the piece.
I might.
Appreciate.
Though I would need a closer look than what I was able to afford by glancing at it and getting that superficial view. To take a look at such things like the rivets that have been driven through the plates, to see if there's a maker's mark of some kind, or perhaps even just feel the metal itself, as there's much you could tell about how a metal has been formed by the touch, by being able to, and she makes kind of like a flicking motion, like a ding on a bell or something.
Very well then. I will see you at 10 o'clock this evening. You will end up asking for Stillwaters, and I will end up bringing you to a room in isolation to end up seeing the piece in its full glory.
And where would you be that I should ask after you?
The Wild Cherry.
The Wild... Oh, I'm familiar with the place. It's come under new management. I've heard good things.
Yes, well, Miss Quam has been kind enough to end up letting her, or offering her support in particular items, and it has been a bit of a investment of mine. After all, in all rights, she was the one who ended up supplying me the funds to be able to win the contest in the first place. And she received a fair compensation, I'd like to believe.
I will see you promptly at 10. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
And to you here, Madame Mercury.
And she gives a very polite curtsy and kind of blends into the rest of the street crowd as it's going back and forth along the sidewalks and the carriages hauling things as life has been returning to normal here.
Tieflings. Always tieflings. Well, at this point I will be heading back to the Wild Cherry.
Okay.
After doing a few rounds, listening to what's going on in the Tipsy Wench and what have you, trying to end up just getting a general feel, the usual patrols. And then once I'm back there, I end up making it a point to express to Miss Quam that I would be expecting a Madame Mercury to be coming to look over the piece that I've recently acquired, allowing her to fully understand what is happening beneath her roof. After all, it is her establishment.
All right. So you fill her on things that have been happening. Of course, she'll ask you about what's going on in the neighborhood, since it's important to her to understand the ebb and flow of things, if people are having any particular troubles or needs, and she'll accept your guest when Miss Mercury arrives.
Oh, it's all right. It's the usual fare, you know. The boys, Wedge and Biggs, have been plotting with Mort and Rick. It's just been a day.
Ah, yes. Well, let me know if a particular opportunity arises that we can exert some influence on them. We don't want to let this block fall into despair. She's also been, by the way, trying to refine her Southern common, so that she doesn't talk with as pronounced an accent.
Very well.
So the day passes. Nothing of consequence, or nothing outside the norm. I mean, maybe your level of detail. Crime is everywhere, or you just have your own concerns. You're ordering your notes, going over the review. You're flipping back through your book for things that you've just noted along the way, and wouldn't you know, it is almost time. So you make your way. It wasn't the lobby. It was like a private room that you were going to take her to.
Yes.
Okay. So I mean, we'll just kind of have that. Yeah, it's around back kind of a thing. Not a seedy, but it's just it's a private gathering place in the Wild Cherry here, and so you are there, and sure enough, like at the stroke of 10, properly through the doors walks our orange ram-horned tiefling with a split tail, Miss Mercury. She asks after you, and
well, so glad to end up seeing you decide to come promptly. Please come this way, Madame Mercury.
She will walk with you, and she's being very observant, looking around, making polite conversation about how the place has improved since she knew it in its prior management. Very courteous, as is befitting this kind of school marm style character you've encountered.
Well, I end up opening the door for them and bring them in, where they can end up seeing the armor has been laid upon a table, white cloth upon the hip, over the wood to accent the piece, and several candles have been brought in order to make sure there's ample light.
Oh, thank you. That's very polite of you. But even a little light can count extra for eyes such as mine. Though, really, unless you have a problem with it, I can provide some magical illumination.
Yes, I do have a problem with that.
Oh. Then candles and lanterns will do just fine.
Well, by all means.
She does have a handbag with her, and she'll open it up, and you can see that inside are some similar tools that even you use on investigations. Things like or at least tools that maybe you have before, like a magnifying glass, or some clean like napkins or something for handling things, or for
polished steel mirror.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yes, it's so she seems to have a, she's not just coming in with nothing. She is appearing as if she does have an expectation or has done this before. And so she has that, and from within, she also does pull out another little kit. And this one, it's not garish, but it looks different than sort of this more mundane leather, almost like a old-time doctor's bag that has her examination tools in it. This one has a lot more color. It is embroidered. And she tells you that contained inside this smaller kit are various magical implements, incense, a magical candle, some various crushed powders, and things along those lines.
More magic. Fantastic.
Well, not magic by itself. It has the potential for magic, yes. Though anything here would require deliberate invocation in order to become truly magical. You can think of it like lantern oil. Lantern oil is simply potential fire. Alone, it's not necessarily dangerous, but until, if it's sparked, then it will produce the effect that was desired by the one who sparked it. So you needn't worry if you have an aversion to magic that anything in this bag will somehow escape and wiggle around. Pardon my joke.
Jaiden has this look on their face like they are not amused. Very well then. Continue your activities. But as for magic itself, well, let us just say that I found it at best to be fickle in use of any investigative work.
Yes, well, magic can do a great many things. It could reveal great truths, and it can create great lies. Your prudence is a show of your patience.
Well, by all means, get started. And I'm going to observe every action, trying to end up ascertaining, like, what is an investigative action? Is there tampering going on here? Is there a spell being cast that I should be concerned of? I don't know a lot about magic. Truthfully, I've tried to avoid it in my investigations. It just seems to find me.
Alright, so she's going to begin her investigation. She'll make commentary if you have particular, detailed questions. And like she might go, "Oh, this is interesting," and if you're, well, what's interesting? Tell me. She'll go through. She'll use terminology for armor smithing terminology. She does appear to be very well versed in this kind of a thing. And ultimately, what she's going to reveal, going through what to you appears through mundane means, would be that there is a piece of the armor that's missing, or rather, it's not manifested. And she's going to point out a particular part of this plate armor, where it would look like maybe if you had a tail, it would almost be like a hinge that could open up, and you could put your tail through it. And she thinks that that this is a point, and she's gonna point to several other places where there seems to be the similar, I guess, places where something else could be. So in this case, there's no like lobstering that would protect a portion of the tail, and so too on the gauntlets. There's some pieces that are not necessarily missing. It's not like there's holes in the armor, but she thinks that there is something that will happen in regards to the armor here, which is probably a part of the magic that's involved. And she'll go on to explain, depending on the type of enchantment that is on this, it may just simply be something that allows for easier resizing. It may be something that can allow for further magical enhancements. Although she is telling you that she's feeling something latent, something that has a seal on it that would otherwise be negative. But she can't get into the properties of that unless she conducts a detection ritual on it.
Muted.
Very well then, do so. Though I have my suspicions and strange voices that are telling me muted for some reason.
Okay, so now she'll go to her more colorful embroidered bag instead of the kind of the proper leather crafter's or doctor's bag. She will take out some components. She will tell you. Sounds like she's done this 1,000 times before. She's measuring everything out. She tells you what everything does. She tells you why. If you inquire or not, if not, then she won't necessarily have to. But she's offering to take you through step by step what is happening here. And so she sets up a kind of a ritual, and tells you there's no need to worry. This isn't going to set things on fire. This is not going to fill the room with poisonous gas, or do any sort of things that magic has a reputation of doing. This is simply going to help me understand what is happening with this armor that's giving me a concern. And if you do wish to be a part of this revelation, Jaiden, I can include you in on it, but that would be your choice.
I will trust you as far as this goes. You have not given me any reason to not do so. So, by all means.
Very well. In that case, and she will take a hairpin out of her hair, and as she does, because she wore a hat not inside, but it was kind of worn up into like a proper bun that really kind of complemented the ram's horns that she had too. Very well balanced. And as she takes out the hairpin, her hair. Her black hair it falls down, and I mean we're talking in modern terms like what you'd see in a modern shampoo commercial, just like almost slow motion, like a very shimmery, luxurious black hair. It falls, not even just falls, it like spills like a waterfall down from her. And she takes this hairpin. She says the final part then, in order to impart the knowledge to me, as I would offer to you, would be to bond myself to the ingredients, to the ritual. And if you're squeamish, I doubt that you are, but as a caution, you may look away. And she takes her thumb and pricks her thumb with the pin. And she... Oh, yep.
I'm gonna just observe this and using Arcana see if it seems like it's on the up and up.
Okay, go ahead. Oh.
Hey, for once, it's somebody. I see lethality still has my dice.
Give me my dice back.
Well, your understanding, especially with how she's explained things, everything seems to make sense. Of course, even to magic users, people use magic differently. So this might be a personal procedure, a personal touch. Maybe the drop of blood could replace something. Kind of like how Bright always carries around that big pearl, and she uses that for things. Well, this might be a different kind of manifestation, but in the context of how she's presented her spell work to you, this does seem to fit. And so, right in the middle of her symbol, is she takes her thumb and gives it a squeeze, and she puts 4 drops of blood in there, and then she very quickly gives it a bit of a kiss, and it doesn't bleed any longer. And she tells you that she's going to now conduct the ritual. And you see that the blood has almost a... It's not fire. Maybe at first, because it appears orange and red and kind of flickers. But it would be more like a light effect if you had some water. How it kind of has a wavering. And so as the blood continues to flow throughout the pattern she's made with the small little conduits and connected by little dust trails of various concoctions here, you get kind of a shimmering, not fire, it's not thrown off heat, but it does have an appearance of fire. And the light then begins to play off of the things in the room. And she closes her eyes, and she uses some hand gestures, and you can see her take the light. And as she does, it's not just a shadow that's cast on the walls of this room. She's actually taking the light and almost molding the light, like scooping it and putting it into a pile. So it's not just shadow cast, it's actually she's removed the light, and the light has been placed on the table where this armor is. And as she's piling the light on top, it's flowing into the armor. It's flowing through it. And so, you did very well in your Arcana. Your guess is that, it's obviously magical, but the light is able to flow over and to come into contact with the plate in order to be like that sense of touch she was talking about, to actually fill the armor or to touch the surface of the armor in order to examine it, because she does seem to be, now that she's gathered the light atop it, she is making small hand motions, and even her tail, which, always had very, like, a pleasant, controlled sway to it, her tail is also getting in the mix as it comes around, almost like a third hand. And, yes, I can feel right about here. And the light makes a creation of this armor and kind of stands it up. And she's able to manipulate the light that is surrounding it now and takes you inside the armor. And there is some kind of, maybe it's a maker's mark. Might have been some scratches, but it's a very odd symbol. This here, Investigator. Do you see it? Her eyes are closed, so she's asking if...
I do.
This is a curse. Yes. Well, perhaps for some it might actually be what they would hope for. With this armor, if you were to put this on, you would not be able to take it off again. At least not until you died or some circumstance other circumstance had occurred. I
Other
presume that for a
circumstance?
young man or someone, a warrior, they would love to have armor that would just always be on, always protect them, and as well, she manipulates the this quasi-image of the armor. And when she says that too, you're thinking back to, well, my dad and his friend had this armor. They don't have it anymore. Why would they turn down why would they store away such really neat armor? Or, if it was useful, especially for a beat cop or someone like that. And so what she's saying about, oh yeah, what person as a cop or a warrior wouldn't want this sort of like permanent armor on them? And here as well. No, this isn't a part of the curse, but it does require someone to wear the armor. And what would happen is she's manipulating this, and you see that there is a on the gauntlets of the armor, while the armor is recreated in like a darker orange, in a brighter orange, 2 blades come up out of the armor and extend about halfway to the hand. And the fingertips also grow sharpened points. She turns it around, and as well, where there's this sort of attachment area that you saw where I guess a tail could go, or some kind of like a tail protector, like a tail sheath or something. There is a kind of a lobstered, segmented area does grow out, and it ends in a almost like a scorpion tail.
Curious. The curse itself, then, is it necessary for the operation of the armor?
The operation, no. However, I imagine that this was, from whoever made it, would have been a way to perhaps, she doesn't open her eyes, I did, control or extort, if we're being negative about it, or otherwise have the user be in the armorer's service or debt in order to actually remove it. Perhaps as a bit of a leash.
You carry your prison with you.
It would seem. However, it seems that I can remove the curse on this armor. Fascinating. I wonder. This is not... No, this is not Shadowheart itself by design. That's my initial thought. This is... There are elements, though I cannot decide if this would have been prior to Shadowheart or developed by someone along with its development. Still, it is a good thing I caught you. If you had put this on, then I don't even know if the armorer, the controller, is still around to have been able to release you. This was worn before, or simply purchased before?
Purchased, handed down by many great individuals, but never, or at least not to my knowledge, ever worn.
Well, you are aware of the properties, and I can suppress the negative element.
But you can't remove it.
I may be able to remove it, yes. Perhaps... And she's manipulating it more. Places it down, the light sculpture, like back on top of the armor. Now she opens her eyes and looks over to you. Perhaps I can, yes. Not just seal it, perhaps to remove it. Something like this is fascinating. It's... Let me... And she's going to go to her bag and start rummaging around. As she does, is there anything... do you want to continue to watch her? Do you want to look at this further?
I continue to observe.
Okay.
Watch insight... Or I rolled... continue to investigate her movements in that regard. This is a person who came out of the blue and suddenly has an interest in the armor, and this has all the red flags on the planet, so...
Yeah. Yes, I can actually... she will take out a... not a mirror that's like a glass mirror, but it would be like a polished, like a metal that's so polished it's acting like a mirror. What I can do, I can trick the curse onto this metal and remove it from yours. It would be similar to perhaps luring a mouse from your wall by offering it some cheese.
Very well then.
She grabs a couple more things. She places this polished metal into the light sphere that she's made over the armor, and she braces herself once more. And before she begins, or actually as she's beginning, but she asks you, Inspector, I need to ask. I forgot to put my hair up before this, and it's somewhat distracting. Would you please tie it into a tail behind me as I'm working?
I think you muted Derek.
I mean, you're
okay.
You're getting kind of
insight. I rolled a 9. I'm assuming that's a failure. So apparently I'm an idiot. Why, sure.
Well, the way that she's coming across is, the way she's coming across would be like a doctor asking a nurse to pat his brow, or for an investigator, maybe one of your seniors. She asked you while trying to handle some evidence at a crime scene, to hand you a particular tool for collecting evidence. And so you're getting that kind of authoritative request. It's nice. There doesn't seem to be anything duplicitous. It's just, my hands are now already in it, and I need help. So she's asking you for help in this case. So yeah.
I'm gonna go with it.
Okay. She doesn't have a ribbon or anything. So what would you like to use to tie her hair up?
Do I have anything in particular? I'm using a piece of torn yellow cloth that I have in my inventory. One that's very special to me.
Okay. So you tie it up, and thank you, Inspector. Now, she places the mirror inside the armor, and you can see what she's doing as this is going on here. Then, with her tail, especially because it's like it has a little split at the end, so she can almost use the end like a little grabber, a very simple little grabber. She goes into her bag and grabs some kind of a maybe a gem. It'd be more like a prism. She places that very crudely, like she holds it out in her hand as she's kind of bloop, opens it and comes back. She slides the prism into the armor, and with an incantation in Infernal. You can speak Infernal if I recall correctly.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Nothing, like, I summoned a demon. It's nothing like that. It's more of it has how in our culture we're like, oh, Old Latin is what, actually summons demons from hell, or, you cast magic. It would be a version of this Infernal where she's speaking in an older dialect. I mean, it's still kind of recognizable, but it's a little weird. And this image, this maker's mark or something, which she called the curse, almost seems to like drip off of the metal of the armor, goes through the prism, and then gets displayed out onto the polished metal that was inserted inside. And then she reaches in and she removes it, and opens her eyes again and takes a look at it, shows you. This is what would have caused the binding of the armor to you. As you can see, it is removed.
Very well. Kind of look at that piece with a little bit of fascination. It's weird to end up imagining curses just jumping as though a spirit of something jumping into a new vessel. Still, outside of my pay grade.
If you would like, I can put what is the term used? The proof where the pudding is? No, that's not it. Well, still, pudding sounds very delicious. But if you wish, I can don the armor and show you that it can also be doffed.
No, it's quite alright. I trust your work enough at this point, and you've given me no reason to think otherwise.
Then, would I be able to see you put on this armor? If you don't mind.
Very well. And Jaiden proceeds to end up doing so. Hardly meek. Especially if you know their sleeping habits. But does so, placing the armor on.
Okay. As you do, would you like her help, or do you want to do this yourself?
Jaiden's a little bit prideful. Probably would be doing it themselves.
Okay. Then you go through the process. It's a very nice looking, rather shiny, and for as old as it presumably is, it has weathered well. And you put all the straps on in this case, and Miss Mercury looks to you. Doesn't feel locked in or anything?
Moving about, how does it feel?
It moves with you rather well. It's not. It doesn't feel like it has a mind of its own or anything. It's very well made. And there's probably a couple times where you're concerned where the armor would be not dimensionally accurate for your body, for height or weight, or like the length of your forearm for the gauntlet or whatever. However, when you do actually put the armor on, it feels comfortable, like it was sized directly to you.
Nothing out of the ordinary so far. And I proceed to try and remove the first gauntlet.
Okay, and it clip, and it slides off.
Seems to be fine.
it wasn't a part of that binding, but it should be a part of the armor. Perhaps some kind of an activation. Would you be able to put that gauntlet back on?
Jaiden does so as they've resigned themselves to being the guinea pig of this Mad Mary Poppins. And a lot of conjuration is going on.
Oh,
Meanwhile,
I was adjusting something and whoops.
there's a small flash on the horizon, then suddenly peace. Oh, yes. It appears that it is something that you can... It is a part of this set, though it must be turned on. I guess. It must be lit, or whatever terminology you'd want to use. Though these are... Well, I mean, attunement, yes, as a part of this as well. Mechanically, this is going to require attunement, as this is plate armor. In fact, it's +1 plate armor. Ooh.
Yay!
Hey. And let me show you. She passes her hand over, and on the above the wrists, or at least on the forearm of each, there is a kind of infernal, but it's that weird kind of dialect of it, where you can read it kind of, but it's foreign enough to cause to pause. You're not exactly sure, and if you mispronounce it, you don't want to end up like summoning an army of the dead kind of a thing. And so what she does is she illustrates this old infernal text that is located on each of your gauntlets on your armor. And I sent you in our super secret cast and crew channel the right and the left gauntlet and our common pronunciation of it, along with what is written.
Does this mean anything to me?
The interpretation is a little odd. Like, I don't... If you say that... How do you pronounce that correctly? Oh, nah. You try mouthing the words. Do you want to give them a try?
I'm having flashbacks to remembering the first time I've seen magical armor at work. It was supposed to be able to resize you to any size, to be the size of a colossus or as small as a mouse. And Officer Gibbs was a good officer. See, the problem with armor that expands and contracts is when it's only the armor that contracts, and when he tried to end up becoming a part of when he tried to end up sneaking through a small hole in the grate, shrinking himself down to size, there wasn't enough left of him to put in a matchbox. It's like watching a man go out a pastry tube.
Ooh. Well, hopefully that doesn't happen. I'm crossing my fingers.
Didn't think of that one now, did you, Matty?
I never thought of it that way.
It works. It works. Just not on you.
That's why all right, kids out there, that's why you wish, when you make wishes or other demands for cool stuff from your DM, you got to be very careful about how you word that. So your left gauntlet is the first word, and your right gauntlet is the other words.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Katsabanyak.
You say Kod Saban and Yak. And as that happens, you hear kind of a tinny echo as the armor itself, the metal of the armor begins to reverberate. And you see it flow. Not in a way that it's like binding you into it, but the metal changes and is making kind of a metallic, not a screech. I don't know. The sound, I guess, if we load our Foley imaginations, kind of like some half of like a ship, like a metal ship creaking on the water, and half like a spring coiling, like a great metallic spring coiling. And as you say, Yake and Kod Saban, your armor takes on a different kind of property. It begins to physically change. And if you all watch the stream itself, I have a picture of what it's beginning to appear like up on the stream. And what you see...
That's actually covered. That's actually covered
Oh,
on that side. We can't see it.
Oh, shoot. It would be, wouldn't it? You dang old thing. Let's...
Right click.
There we go.
Open a new tab.
There we go.
New tab.
Now, the pauldrons begin growing spikes. The forearms grow great blades that are reaching out forward. The fingertips, the things that you saw were simulated by the light are beginning to happen. As well is what you don't see on this picture is a lobstered kind of scorpion tail begins growing off of the back, and a visor does come down, though the visor itself does have two great horns that come up and end up pointing forward. So like they'll go back for like a little hairpin turn and then come back forward with a point.
Interesting. Interesting. And it's at this point just kind of looking at it and trying to assess the thing in itself. I'm pleased with it in that regard. But does it have to look so garish? Oh, I suppose that might be part of me losing myself. Usually I'm only about pragmatism. Now I'm suddenly worried about, oh dear God, am I going to start painting my nails or something like that soon? Well, nevertheless, I'm trying to end up feeling out the armor and getting a better feel for it. It's going to take some time, obviously. After I'm convinced that everything works, I give the Lady Mercury a bit of a gratitude towards it, and end up taking a small bag of coin and placing it on the table for your expenses.
It's appreciated, but I don't require payment. I was given the opportunity to study something marvelous, something awkward and ancient, and, well, also help local law enforcement, bringing order to this world. And I don't believe that you have to look as, if you consider it garish as that all the time. You can turn that off if you wish.
Perhaps. And I re-speak the command word, and hopefully it goes back to normal.
Yep, the tail retracts and the spikes do as well. So you have a kind of it's an interesting style for plate armor, and so walking through the middle of town in plate armor might just itself get attention, but not like super spiked scorpion tail plate armor would. But yeah, it does return back, and you are also able to take it off. Were you going to say something, Lethality? I'm sorry.
No.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, let us hope that it all ends up working out, nevertheless. Well, I escort them out and wish them a pleasant evening. Trying to listen in, as I hope that my comrades will arrive, or maybe they got assailed by men of wars on the high seas again.
You are told if you wish to see Miss Mercury further, that she has been recently aiding the researchers at the Burning Tower, as that has been something that has drawn her attention.
I'll certainly end up inquiring into details on that note. Certainly.
And she will bid you adieu. Now, for mechanical purposes here, you have +1 plate armor, and when you have the gauntlets turned on, the clawed gauntlets will turn unarmed strikes with your hands into magic weapons that deal slashing damage with a +1 bonus to attack rolls and damage rolls, as well as a damage die of 1d8.
I'll keep that in mind.
Oh, hey, real quick, thank you for the raid. The Liching Hour. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you all were having a fun game yourself before you decided to visit us. So yes, you and as for the scorpion tail, you can use that. Dungeons and Dom, thank you very much for joining us. Howdy, howdy, howdy. You can use the tail as an action. It does have a reach of 10 feet, and it will deal magical damage. And thank you also for the follow. Welcome, everyone. My goodness. And it will deal 1d6 magical piercing damage, no modifier, but it will also have 1d6 poison damage as well that is inflicted.
1d6 poison.
Yep, and you can make an attack with that as an action, or as one of your attacks.
Okay. Is the poison itself magical?
Yes.
Might be relevant.
Yeah, if it's relevant, then yes. Since you have this metal object that is somehow manufacturing and secreting a poison, it would be a magical poison, not a natural one like crushed out of a flower or something.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's all inputted.
And
thank you.
The last little bit here for your part of the downtime is you would go on to hear about Miss Mercury here and there, especially through the network local here to the Wild Cherry. As someone who has been helpful, in fact, while she's not a part of any of the city functions, like the patrols that are trying to keep the tieflings away from the tower, because the tieflings are still drawn to this tower, just in a very no one's really been able to explain it. But she has been helping. She's been helping other tieflings to move along and to try and get them to stay away, even from the wall. Since they just kind of linger at the wall, like much like a moth would still want to try and go into the flame, but there's a glass part of the lantern that would keep them like bapping into it. She's trying to keep people moving along here, as there are many tieflings that are still almost treating this like a routine, like the same ones come around every day, and things are going on. So yeah, she's there trying to help people not get lured in by the beacon.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yep. All right, so this this is going to take us now across the seas. Well, the one sea anyway. And we are bright for you. You all had landed up here at this trading city, and you had found a caravan continuing to travel south through the Fallfire Plain that had dropped you off at the northern lip of the crater before continuing on. And so you had about a weekish, or maybe it was a little less than that, I forget offhand. But you had some time overland, of course, casting magic in this time. There was some experimenting. It was about the halfway point right here that you started to feel that kind of static tingle, like, well, if I start casting magic, it'll probably have a wild magic effect. And the closer that you got to the crater, the more that kind of fizzy, tingly, magical feeling increased. So, I mean, if there's any sort of latent magical, whatever, I'd try turning something blue with prestidigitation. If you want to measure an effect, we can say that you've done that and, you were able to kind of gauge the power or the influence, generally with no consequences like nuking everyone with a fireball. If you want to do something else specific, let me know during the travel. Otherwise, we'll reach the crater.
Yeah, what? Okay, did anything happen, like, on the ship on the way?
It just travel time. You observe the crater from afar. There was some ships that might have been a threat on the horizon, but nothing really came of that.
Okay. So, what are our future travel plans?
By the time that you reach this port city, it was to travel south, observe the crater, and then go a safe distance away and teleport back, unless there was another place you wanted to go.
So we were finishing up with the Lily Willens Gambit then.
Yeah, it was sailing. It was pretty much a straight sail up.
Okay, that's fine. I've got a couple of things. I'm sorry, I'm just getting back into this. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
We really haven't played much in a while. So I should have been doing this, but I was listening to what was going on with the other story. So I was never able to talk to the skeleton on the ship.
Well, that was something that I was waiting on you to do in this case.
Okay.
But there's, the skeletons, and we can fill that in. I won't even necessarily need a lot of rolls or anything because you have the time. The skeleton's not going anywhere. You're on board the ship, so.
Right.
Given that time, because the party sentiment was, let's get to the crater, explore it. If depending on what we learn, we could just head back in the meta sense, right, as a group.
Okay.
But I know that the skeleton was an ongoing project for you, Bright, and so there are a couple pieces of knowledge about the skeleton that you can end up gleaning from it, especially because you had some interesting mixes of spells you could have used or just, been friendly to it.
I had so many more skeleton jokes to tell.
So you are, what you're going to discover is when you bring up this recipe for fried potatoes, cheese, and a gravy, the skeleton is about as animated as anyone has ever seen it. Also in so much that a skeleton could possibly be happy.
And it is an animated skeleton.
Yeah, well, I know, it's even an animated skeleton, and this is like going above and beyond. And the skeleton seems to be all too eager to prepare this dish, this Shadowheart dish. And, it's like it hasn't made this stuff in a very long time. And it prepares a perfect protein for you.
That's so nice.
And offers it. Yeah, like, just take it, eat, put some skin on your bones, kind of a thing. Coming from a skeleton, that's got to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe you should have some.
But the skeleton seems very happy, or at least eager to prepare this Shadowheart dish.
Okay. That's interesting. I mean, we kind of already figured that this skeleton was from Shadowheart originally, and when it was alive, it was probably a Shadowheart-y person. So, that's not a big surprise, but I'm glad it's enjoying it. I mean, I want it to have a good time. I want to make friends with the skeleton. It's so hard.
It's tough, can't really speak or...
I can't find a way to get under its skin.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. So yes, as a part of this, you can certainly you can certainly have kind of an interaction with it, and I will. The freebies would be that this very much does seem to be an old Shadowheart, if not a pilgrim, then someone who lived there. I guess came along with the boat when the boat was still new, and seems to be very eager to make Shadowheart dishes. Although I don't know how many Bright really knows beyond this protein that was introduced.
Yeah. I don't know. And the other dishes would probably be like Shadowheart bacon, which I wouldn't want to eat.
Yeah, it's weird. Instead of like strips, it's kind of round.
It's not really bacon.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird. Yeah. Oh well. I need to find a particular. Let's go to this page. There we go. Pit fighting. So no, I'm just. The ongoing meme was I was shoehorning everyone's downtime activities into a modification of the pit fighting. Yeah.
Do pit fighting. I have to prepare the right spells though. I don't have my pit fighting spells ready.
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
What are you talking about? You always have fireball ready.
Ah. Barbecue pit.
Yes.
It's delicious.
Make sure that you're fighting in the round where it's being managed by the referee who's 2 days away from retirement.
Of course.
All right. Now, what I would like you to do is pretty simple here. Over the course of this time that you've been interacting with the skeleton, we're going to treat this as kind of a carouse. And
okay.
So what I would like you to do is to make a which chart do I want to use? All right, we're going to use that one, and go ahead and make a just make a persuasion check here.
Okay.
I am adding some intrinsic bonuses because you had this knowledge of protein and some other things. So just this would be a roll on your behalf. Now, oh, by the way, before you roll, if you
already rolled.
All right, that's fine. Bright, Kazimir, Cypher, Mordecai, and Jaiden are all floating a +1, And actually, Bright, you have one left over from last week. I didn't erase it because you weren't here. So, Bright, you technically have 2 floating, and Kazimir has 2 floating.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
All right, but you rolled a 19, and according to my calculations, boop, doop, doop, doop. You have endeared yourself, so I'm gonna kind of combine the carousing with learning a little bit about the skeleton by being able to infer some things. I mean, you're already a bit of a smarty pants, so I'm not worried about that. That's going to be the intrinsic translation into some kind of a clue or a piece of lore. What I would like you to do as well is to roll a d8.
Okay. 1d8. 4.
Okay. And from there, what I will do is say that you are, what are 2 pieces of information you would like to try and infer or to walk away with a reasonable knowledge or truth about the skeleton here?
Oh. Okay. That's kind of interesting because it wasn't really so much learning facts as it was I kind of wanted to get a more clear picture of the Shadowhari culture, you know, and what it was like and why you left.
That, yeah, I mean, it's a part of the skeleton if you want that to be it. This is like, I guess, 2 pieces of lore-ish that would be related to the skeleton that could be the Shadowhari culture.
Yeah, so that's one of them. And then for the second one, I would want to know for sure why it was that he came here and stayed.
Okay.
Maybe it's a she. I don't know.
So the first, or the second part, is you get, this would almost be through, like, it speaking through the chef tools and other things, that this skeleton had 2 others that came down with it, and the 3 of them seem to be very close.
Well, it's gonna be a sad story.
But the other two are not really. The skeleton doesn't know where they are. And it would seem that the 3 of them have been, the 3 of them seem to be very influential in some way. However that would manifest, but not. That's the gist, is that they were important people. There are 3 important people that had come down here. Or had at least been down here too.
Do I know anything about why, or is it they're just important? Political leaders or military or businessmen or I don't know. Okay. That's fine.
And then what about the Shadowhari culture or society did you want to try and pick up? Were there a couple of particular aspects to it? Because there's only so much skeleton can convey about that.
Sure. So I guess well, I'll just throw a bunch of things at the wall and you can decide what sticks. Okay. Wanted to make sure you heard me, but you did. Okay.
Well, yeah, you said I'm going to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah. It looked like you got distracted. So, okay. So the first thing that I'm thinking about is it seems like the Shadowhari. Obviously, you have the skeletons, and then you have the vampires, and it just seems like there's a real connection to the undead. And yet, at the same time, they have a really young leader. And I'm wondering if maybe he's not really that young. Maybe he just looks it. You know, if you catch my drift. The second question is that they seem to be really expansionist, but they seem to be kind of peaceful about it too. It seems like they're more interested in like taking over businesses than in invading and enslaving people. And I want to know if that's generally true, or if that's just like the way it looks right now. And then the third thing is, it seems to me like once upon a time, the Shadowhar probably had some kind of connection to like the infernal realm, whatever that's called in this universe. And I wanted to find out if that's something that's still active, or if it's been lost, or if it's how it used to be that way.
Okay.
Of those three, I think the second one is probably the most pressing. But since I don't, I don't know. I don't know what you're going to tell me.
For this, the chef is going to go to a part of the galley and behind some very old utensils, things that probably have not been used in a long time, ends up getting a coin.
It's behind the fondue pot.
Yeah. Yeah, there's probably not a lot of a call for fondue aboard the ship, at least not that often, but you do you see that there is a coin that is placed down on the counter, and the tail of the coin is the same as the new one, as the mark that you've seen here. It's the more like the serpentine dragon that has the oval and the two spikes, and then still written is all things in time. And you are getting the skeletal finger is tapping and tracing this logo, or the slogan, all things in time. And kind of makes a gesture out one of the portholes.
Can I see anything out of the portholes?
Yeah, you would see
It's just the ocean.
Well, you're traveling, I guess, close enough that maybe you could see the smoke from the volcano that's been grumbly lately, or I guess here we could say that you see the coastline of the Fire Plain in the giant crater. But it's not just like, it's not pointing to one. It's just kind of like an open hand. That's like what you see out here. And when you flip it over, there's a date that is, it's rather old. It's about 900-ish. The calendars are probably a little off, but whatever. By your gnome reckoning here, probably about 900 years or so old. And there is a picture of someone. Also looks rather young, not a tiefling. It is an older coin, kind of varnished. Hasn't been treated poorly or anything. It's not like half corroded, but there does appear to be another young emperor that is minted on the face of the coin.
Would you mind terribly if I kept this coin?
I
can pay you for it if you need me to.
The skeletal hand closes and holds it close.
Would you mind if I took a rubbing of the coin?
And so you say that, and it kind of looks down and turns its head in profile to you.
Oh.
And holds up.
Whoa.
And would hold up the
brush. Yeah, I figured it out. Okay. That's interesting. Oh. That's well, thanks so much. I've learned a lot now. I know what I wanted to know. Thank you, Mr. Skeleton.
And the skeletal hand kind of closes. Like this.
Oh, I won't tell anyone. Well, except maybe for Mordecai, and maybe Jaiden and Kazimir and Cypher, but nobody else.
I can trust all of them to not tell any more than maybe one person. We're keeping it limited here.
Right.
So, okay, that's very nice. So, those other two skeletons that came with you, would you say that one of them was really sternum, but the other one was humorous?
A finger points to the exit to the kitchen, and a universal gesture across all timelines that says "Get out."
Okay, nice.
So you land at the Fall Fire Trade City. It is very active. As I explained it, there's it's not a even really like a Cold War, but there's a sister city for Aslandia across the little channel, and they both get into like fierce competition on goods and services and prices. I mean, if you spend enough time here, you can find about everything is passing through, and one of the cities will offer tax exemptions or sales or something on whatever on horses, and then the other city will try and beat it, and it's a constant, much like how the waters like come in and out and roil around this very deep bay. You just get the two cities are just in a price war with each other all the time. And so from here, you were able to either like catch a ride, or for a while, I think what Kazimir might have provided horses, at least for a little while. That's when you get the halfway point, is when you start feeling fuzzy. And so from your experience in Uct, I mean, in Uct, there's a couple wild magic pockets that were here and there, but certainly the influence from the crater just natively has expanded, and you had reached the northern lip of the crater itself, which has begun to overgrow with all kinds of plants and exotic flowers and things that just haven't really been seen before. And a little bit about what made Uct Uct. It's a more tropical environment. You have some trees and some other things that live there that even in normal times you could only find in Uct, because Uct was a bit of a magical land. And maybe that was just a little bit of residual or fallout from the crater here as the winds blew in. But now the crater itself is beginning to really just overgrow. And with all kinds of weird plants and animals, fusions of things. Kazimir went off hunting a bear owl. So it looks like nature just sort of took half of one and half of the other and put them together. But as you did reach the crater's edge, you were offered a choice. If you'd like to slide down or not, and so the party did choose to go down into the crater, and so down into the crater you'd go.
Okay, can I assume that at some point I was able to recharge my spell slots and get new portents?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, let me get some new portents, just in case, and some new spell slots too, because I'm really low on those.
Okay.
I used them all up trying to charm the skeleton. Ooh. Okay, well, I like those portents.
And so down into the crater you went. There's water that was flowing through the lands that was there. Strange fusions of plant and animal, animal and animal, and who knows what that other thing is over there. And here you were able to, I don't know, do whatever Bright would want to do. You're in like a kind of a magical cradle of great potential. I mean, this is like a raw stuff of magic is here, as the very foundations of imagination or reality have been pushed by the growth and the things that you're seeing. The others, in their own way, made research or comments on magic. Professor Cypher tried to understand the nature of wild magic, since you're at the epicenter of it here in the crater, and for his troubles he ended up turning into a wraith. and and
I'm not undead.
yeah, not undead, but you are incorporeal and kind of have like a fuzzy, like an ethereal tendriliness to you. Kazimir was finding some strange animals, had some success in tracking them and understanding them, and then Mordecai kind of zonked out for a bit, seemed to have a revelation, and was. I don't think Mordecai's necessarily a changed man, but you had a time, Mordecai, in your own contemplative, your meditations, your study of this book, of Celine's book. And so the two that pursued something, so those who are pursuing like more magical means seem to be getting results, arguably prodigious, if not straightforward. And Kazimir was doing Kazimir things. So what would be a bright thing? What's something that you would like to do while you are in this very unique situation?
Hey, so, I want to make sure that I have some of the Norlite crystal. And, I probably have the little bone I was using from before.
Okay.
But, I want to do magical experiments.
Sure.
Maybe casting through it, and then casting through my regular focus, and I might even use some plain old components, if I can find a spell that I know that just uses plain components. Maybe like Unseen Servant is a nice safe one, because it only needs string and wood, and those are pretty easy to get. Okay. And also it's kind of a nice spell, because then I haven't really had Betty around very much lately, so. Yeah, so I'm going to try casting spells in different ways and see if I can get a more deeper understanding of how the wild magic works, because I know that this is the origin of it all. It might be the origin of magic, period. I don't know. But it's certainly the origin of wild magic. And so I really just want to do magical research here without turning myself into a wraith, because I don't want to be a wraith.
Okay, hopefully that doesn't happen, but hey. Wild magic, y'all. So... what I'm going to do is I will treat what you wish to do similar to how I handled things with Professor Cypher, which not just...
that I don't turn into a wraith.
Well, hopefully you don't turn into a wraith, but I will treat this like an arcane version of a pit fight, where instead of pit fighting skills, I will use the methodology of it, but I will call on a series of checks, and we'll see how successful you are against magic. Because you're sort of fighting against the raw nature of magic, the powerful tides of it and such.
We are kind of in a pit.
And you are in a pit? Yeah, you are. So I guess this will work here. So what I will be looking for sure, we're going to have an Arcana check thrown in there. Now, what would be some other kind of... what would be some other kind of a check that you would wish to make? For Cypher, I believe I asked after nature for you, because you're trying to understand how it crossed over into the plants and animals, kind of creating this fundamental, like this mutagenic effect, and how it, how magic was suffusing nature. Are you approaching magic similarly, or are you trying to glean a different angle?
Well, since I'm working on it specifically with Norlai's bones, I think that should be a medicine or maybe an insight. I know insight is usually like what people are thinking, but I got to know Norlai pretty well, and I got to, we didn't start off on the best of terms, but we became a lot closer, and I just feel like I have more of a connection, with the bone.
Sure.
More than just in a purely medical sense. So, insight is kind of what I'd like to do for that. But if you want it to be medicine or nature, that those would also make sense. And then,
I think not nature. I think medicine would work, especially if you're using Norlai's bones, because similar to what the professor is looking at in how it manifests in plants and animals, this would be perhaps an insight into how this magic manifested inside of Norlai. As its own, fusion or entity. So yeah, medicine. And then the last thing that you're going to do is to make a Constitution check that has that'll have a bonus equal to your largest hit die.
that a con save or just a con check?
Con check. And so you would then just roll a d6 because you're a wizard. So we're going to be making those 3 checks, and I will be rolling against you, as I will be rolling 2d10 plus 5 against your rolls, and then it's going to be who has the. It's a number fighting contest. We're going to see who has the largest integer. So.
Oh.
Oh my.
All right. So what order are we gonna do those things in?
We're going to start with the fundamental nature of magic. So we're going to go Arcana, Medicine, and then a Constitution check as you've opened yourself up to the magical forces, and we're going to see how your body weathers that or what happens.
Okay. All right. Well, here's the Arcana. 20.
Okay.
That's
roll.
actually not that great for Arcana, but it's okay.
2d10 plus 5.
We'll win that one.
Okay. So you got that one, and now we're going to move into the medicine.
Okay. Let's see here. How lucky do I feel?
How lucky do you feel?
What are the rules on the Constitution check again? It's Constitution check plus my what?
Con check plus a d6 because that's your largest hit die.
Okay, I'll just roll the medicine then. 9.
Okay.
Okay. Well, at least I didn't waste it. And now for the third one, I'm going to take my portent.
Which one?
So that's going to be a natural 20.
Yep. And roll your d6.
Plus 2 for my Constitution score. So 4 total.
Okay.
You have to roll double 10.
Ooh. All right, here we go. There's a limited chance here. I'm rolling 2d10 plus 5. Can I beat a 24? Nope. Okay. I saw that 2 hit, and I'm like, yeah, you're good.
Okay. Okay, so I definitely used the portent at the right time. I feel pretty good about that. Also, I'm going to go to the craps table later. as soon as the quarantine is done.
Okay. So we are you have 2 successes of the 3. However, unlike the pit fighting results where you just win 100 gold pieces because you punched someone in the nose pretty well.
You mean someone besides Mordecai?
Well,
You've done that before.
I know. That's why I'm making the joke about it.
I would like you to roll a d6, please.
Hey. That's a pretty good roll.
Okay. And, one more thing. Boop-a-doop-a-doop. Now go ahead and make a D100 roll.
It feels better when they happen in my game. 42.
Okay.
Usually somebody's throwing their sword across the room. Falling on their butt.
Okay,
fun
so
stuff.
what happens to you, Bright, is you've made the Constitution. You only had the one thing that failed here. As you are trying to understand how magic can infuse a body and ingratiate itself into it, like Noralai was this walking manifestation. You don't completely turn into a potted plant. However, Bright, the magic, you do take on plant-like properties. You turn, I don't know, you still have pink hair, but you turn green. You have, I don't know, you emit a very nice smell. I
always do.
Well, And you have some other plantoid properties, and at least for a little while, you are a plant in addition to being a humanoid. As the magic, you're trying to understand the magic and how it works with the body, and it didn't necessarily grant insight, but you did seem to be able to weave some of this magic, like this raw magical potential into yourself. As Bright, you are now a plant.
That's better than a wraith.
Fitting.
So did I learn
Wait,
anything, or
what
did
you
I
turn
just
into?
turn into a plant?
The things that you learn, I guess, I don't really have like a list to show you, but this would be, I don't know, if you have a couple questions, like kind of with Mordecai, there was a direction that we took and I was able to answer some things. But
Yeah.
this, so I was looking for a complete, for what were the checks in total, and then, as for the, as for what you learned, well, obviously the magic seemingly can be woven into a person in some form. You're probably infused with this chaos magic as it is. So, just as Noralai couldn't be converted by the Fae, or was able to damage those, able to damage the flesh trees and whatnot, you probably in this intrinsic state have this kind of wild magic infused into you. It did change you into a plant. Now, whether you go from there or what you do, I don't know. You can try growing a banana or something out of your hair, but
What I can do is I'll conjure up Piggy Sue, and she can nest in me for a little bit, just like old times when you were a cricket. Except now you're a bird and I'm a plant, so it's basically the same.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So you get a little Peggy Sue parrot hanging out in your floofy fronds there, and Peggy Sue, kind of being an extension of you, has I don't know, some interesting little. I mean, beyond being a parrot instead of a cricket, I don't know. Probably has like a little leaf or whatever. It's cosmetic in this case, but yeah. As for the nature of magic, I mean, I don't know if you have a specific question or if we want to consider this that should you encounter wild magic, or you are looking at some sort of magical infusions or something for an experiment, a spell or something, that you would have this kind of intrinsic knowledge.
So I can tell you the things that I want to find out.
Okay, sure.
Pretty much in order that they would matter to me. First of all, is this place actually the origin of magic entirely, or is it just the origin of wild magic? Second, what if there's any commonality between the environment here and the environment up in the flower fields, because they have the same kind of wild magic, and I want to find out if there's anything that's connected there. Third, can I learn to cast the magic without having to use Noralai as a focus? Not that I can't. I mean, I've got that, but what I'd like to learn it in more of a, so that I could reproduce it, so that I could teach it to other people how to do it without necessarily being like, okay, you're worthy of having the bones of Noralai, because I don't want to, I would like to be able to give her a burial and just have the power, and teach it to others. Additionally, I guess I want to find out if there's any connection between the wild magic that's landed here and just kind of, the stuff that happened to me, early on.
Okay.
So I have so many reasons that I wanted to come here. Now you know why I wanted to come here.
Yeah.
They're all important questions.
Okay, we'll go on a little bit deeper dive then, with you in this regard, and I would.
I mean, we can table that until after the break, or even during the week if you want.
Nope, just go ahead and we're gonna kind of summarize this, and I am weighing it that this is, with all the circumstances, make an investigation and an insight. Okay.
12 and 15.
All right. Well, you're not taken to a special room with a spotlight, which maybe is good. I don't know if you want to end up there.
I've never been there, and I'd like to keep it that way.
Yeah, well, Professor Cypher also, by the way, blinked out for a minute there, and
Yeah, but that's old news to him, I bet.
Very much so.
as you are communing with nature in a way that is it's intrinsic, but maybe you've never really thought this way before, because it's not about thinking, it's just about being, or about just opening yourself up to everything that is there. And magic is itself older than what's going on here, but this seems to be the elemental magic. This is simply a pooling of the raw potential of magic that's here, as things are morphing and changing, and that's why anything that's cast here, whether you have a piece of Norelai or not, would count as this kind of primordial, essential magic that exists. Now, especially you in your state, if that lingers beyond the crater, you may also be casting magic because you have succumbed, if only temporarily, to this change, to this fundamental altering of yourself, and allowed this primal magic to infuse you. And then, of course, you direct your magic as you would, by your will and your desires. Then, as for things like the flowers, nature through your insight here, because you're reading your people, as you are at least temporarily one of them, and you're catching the mood. You're catching how things are working, or how they've been growing. And when we go back and we revisit, I guess more specifically, we'll revisit this map here. You know that there are these flowers that cause wild magic, and for the greatest amount of time, they would only exist in the north of Mesomasca, one of the 6 countries of Mesotopia. And there were pockets of it elsewhere where, of course, strange flowers, or things that just don't exist anywhere, or seemingly can exist anywhere outside of where they grow, are they're kind of there. Well, the flowers have been growing out from this area, and now as your view, you take on some flowery, some flowery imagination, and you're seeing how, even from like a dandelion's point of view, how maybe like a rock would come down into the grass. And as it does, of course, all the grass blades will bend, and some will break or die away. And the rock is there, but it does cause some of the dandelion poofs to kind of go scattering across, and the rock also continues to roll from where it landed, from its initial landing point. And so you're kind of being sent up. You're whirling through the sky, plant bright as a little dandelion seed, and you can see now Mesotopia beneath you as you're flying up high and spinning around. You're looking in all these directions, and so too you can see the rock as it has come crashing down, and given this interesting point of view, this the feeling through your investigation and through your insight here. Well, the crater's just that. The rock that came, it scooped out a big part of the land. There's this tremendous waterfall, and other waterfalls from rivers that travel throughout the lands are trickling down. There's a very deep portion of the sea here, so it came in and it impacted. And much like the rock in this analogy is tumbling, you're seeing that there's the mountain range that I guess everyone always knows that exists, but you have the solid mountains here, and they're solid here, but they do seem to be pretty broken up, including this volcano that's here, that is smoking and recently started to be kind of feisty. And in your mind, you're putting this together, and this thing landing is probably what shattered the mountain range that spanned north to south, perhaps even in its entirety. And what has caused a rupture below the ocean, such that it has caused this volcano, almost like a wound, to open up with plumes of steam and smoke and gases and lava, because this volcano has been here as long as anyone who's, in recent memory and record has lived here. It's just always been a part of things. Though, of course, it's not active here in the Dragon's Graveyard. It's active here, even though the same type of stone exists on the smaller islands. But if that's the case, if a big stone did tumble through the grass, it bowled through, it destroyed these mountains, it might have sent pieces of itself or infused parts of itself elsewhere in what would then go to become Mesotopia as a whole. So especially Uct, because you're right near the epicenter. But that could explain why you have those odd flowers even in Mesomasca as it exists, as this thing has just come bowling through and destroyed, maybe even created this whole inner sea.
That's kind of what I was going to ask next. Should we think of the whole Mediterranean Sea, the whole sea, as being the primary impact crater, and then this place that's fall fire is actually just like a secondary impact? Is that the conclusion?
Well, it'd probably be more like a Gulf of Mexico, though it has the appearance of the Mediterranean to us. In the terms of geological events, it'd be more like a Gulf of Mexico. But where it started and where it ended, that isn't to be determined with what's going on here and now. But it would seem that this thing had come down, had blown out, sunk, destroyed, and also in its own sense scattered these seeds across Mesotopia. So it's not just a rock that's sitting somewhere. It's there may very well still be a big chunk of rock somewhere, but it also has spread itself. But this is what your plant-like vision can offer you as the diaspora of spores will often ride on the winds and go and populate elsewhere. This seems to be what has occurred in regards to this, the events, and now that you can see things from this bird's eye view with this plant-like take.
That's pretty cool. I did have one other last thing I wanted to do here, and that is, am I able to find any rocks that look like they might be debris from the impact? Because sometimes, like in a real crater, you'll find like little shards of meteorites or little bits of glass that have formed, and I'm wondering if I can find anything like that here.
There's certainly rocks, whether they're native or not, because everything's been kind of fused and changed, and there's a lot of plant life and bugs and growth and whatever. You can grab rocks, but there's nothing that would necessarily indicate if it's native or not. I mean, you even go and reach for a rock and it turns into a little crab that scuttles away.
See, that's the sort of thing that I'd be interested in.
You can grab that crab if you want, but it's not a rock. Or is it? It could be a rock lobster, even.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. So what do you two? What do you three? Is Cypher, does he exist? Not clear.
Yeah, Cypher has zapped back into existence from his
I am here.
out of town experience.
Yes. Ball style.
Yeah, on the mystical phone. Well, I mean, did you get what you wanted to get from coming here? I don't know. I mean, I have some answers, but not as many as I was hoping for.
I would say that I am in quite the... Yeah, I would say that I am quite the same boat as you, Bright. However, as you can plainly see, or not see, as it were.
That tends to happen in wild magic zones.
Yes, I stared too long into the abyss, and the abyss decided to stare back into me, and this.
I stared into the eyes of God.
Oh boy, yes, you did.
What happened?
That's right. Yes, he stared into the eyes of a god.
I spoke to Jess.
Yeah.
Oh, did you? Boy, I spent a lot of time floating around as a plant. What happened? How did you do that?
Well, I was just studying Celine's journal, as I've been doing, and reaching out and seeing if something would answer back, and she did. And when I asked her what I'm supposed to do, she simply said, whatever you want. Be the change you want to see.
I've heard that before, but I've never heard it attributed to Weejas. But nobody knows who actually said it, so maybe it was Weejas. I don't know.
It was both frustratingly vague and not helpful, but also helpful.
I think gods are like that. See, this is why I have a spell book and not a prayer book.
I'm just trying to understand what it is that I'm supposed to be doing, because I feel lost.
Understand that? It sounds like we just is telling you to be a leader. To be, I mean, she wants you to. I mean, you have a unique position. You have. You're the, from the standpoint of vampires. You're the changeling. You're the one who went out first and lived with humans and tieflings and just the people in Mesotopia, and now you have the opportunity to go back and teach them what you want them to learn, and be, just because of who you are, they're gonna respect you. I think that's what she's telling you to do, is use your unique position and make your mark on the world.
Right. I'm just a musician.
If only that were true.
Special.
About musicians, lots of people hear them.
I'm not a leader. I'm not a leader at all.
Mordecai.
I mean, you could be a band leader. That's one step on the way.
I shall put it to you like, I have not known you very long, but
No.
the thing that I have seen from someone who's been around the block, is that no, you're not a leader yet. You have the potential to become some. But the thing about leadership, anything that is held upon high by society as a whole, anything blessed, held to the diamond standard, as it were, is that it's shaped by fire. The trials and tribulations, things that go shaped. And I can tell simply by looking at you in your short life have been quite a large. You say that you're not a. You say that you're not this, that, not the. But my question to you, you actually
You're cutting out.
Yeah,
real bad.
you cut out there. What is your actual question?
Have you decided into a mirror? And I mean truly. Past skin and everything else.
You're still cutting out.
Yes, I know, Discord is a pain. The arse. Have you decided to look past the skin, the undead flesh, your desire for blood, and see what the things that you have actually been have caused you to become? Have you looked at you as a person, as a being, an entity that exists in this world rather than the physicality of it all? Have you had a spiritual look at you? You might be surprised.
I mean, that's what I was tempting to do here.
We just probably told you the things you needed to hear, not necessarily that you want to hear them, or that you think you need to. The thing is about gods is that they show insights no mortal person.
The way in which it was helpful is it kind of gave me this idea as I need to find out what the Shadowhar are about. Are they planning to take over Mesomasca and erase everything that we are? Or are they just stopping by?
You sure they plan to take over? It's just a question of how. I mean, if they just come to decide who owns the primary tavern chain, I'm not really excited about that. But maybe they. No, I don't know if it's just the first step or what their long range goal is. But obviously they plan to take something over.
I fear that it's a long-term insidious plan to weave themselves so integrally into Mesomascan culture. The reason that the reason that the Pilgrims even came to Mesomasca was in the first place was to escape some kind of persecution.
Excuse me.
And would their coming to Mesomasca have been in vain if the people that they were leaving from decided to come and claim everything that they are now, centuries later?
Well, see, we could talk at absolute length. We could talk ad nauseum about the conjecture of what the Shadowhar are actually doing here in Mesomasca. That's not the point. You see that this is going on. Doesn't matter why they are. No matter what are you going to do about it. You can conjecture why they're here for days. But if you don't actually spur yourself to action, it doesn't matter why they're here. They're going to do whatever it is they came to do anyway.
Mesomasca is its own state. It's its own culture. The last thing I want to see is it erased.
It's bad enough people call it
I
like a
don't
little
know that.
Shadowhar as it is.
That irks me terribly. I'm not Shadowhar, I'm Mesomascan.
Then how do you assert yourself? How do you be the change you want?
That's
It's exactly as we do. And it's something that you're going to have to figure out.
And I do believe that you will have that Well, you have a lot of opportunity to certainly think as you will need to eventually make your way back. I don't want to force that, especially if you're in a contemplative mood.
Yeah.
But so you are here. and what will be your next steps? Outside of wild magic, and you want to teleport? Do you want to explore another country? What would you... There might be clues in all manner of places for all manner of other things. There is Jaiden still back in Mesomasca. Now, that being said, I mean,
Mordecai
you haven't
wants
heard
to-
bad things happening there, but... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mordecai wants to go home.
And that is where we shall go.
Mesomasca. Where he was going to run from. Possibly for a while. No, he wants to go home.
Good that you want to run towards it and not away from it.
Running away simply denies inevitable problem that will plague you.
We've been running for too long. 10 years I've been running. It's time to go home. My home, at least. I don't know about the rest of you.
It isn't home for me.
I actually currently live there, but it's not home. But I do currently live there.
I like passing through. Cozy, bit of a fixer-upper. Good deal, though.
Game with pool.
Yeah, came with pool. How could you turn that down?
Do you want to go home, Bright?
Ooh.
I mean, I do. So, how much... Wait, whoops. Oh, yeah,
Derek's
that's
waiting.
Derek. Yeah, he's... I feel like we shouldn't go back to Mesomasca just yet. Just have this feeling. Call it one of my hunches. We should wait at least an hour before we go back to Mesomasca. Yeah, how much do you remember? I mean, you and me and Kazimir, we all went on that hunt and we saw the creature. How much do you know about? I mean, we just kind of left, and I told you that we had to go, but I didn't tell you why. I
I
wanna tell you.
assumed you were scared.
Well,
We
it
came
wasn't
across it and
exactly.
You decided that we should go back.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly like that. Here, let me show you.
I'll allow it.
Yeah, I figured you would. So anyway, now you know what it's like.
There you go. It's right in your brain. You got a front row ticket to it.
So,
I don't trust you, little creature.
I know, but anyway, you both got turned into monsters, and I couldn't save you, and you turned into blurpy things, and it was awful. And it wasn't good. So I don't know. I mean, that's what's happening to everybody. That's what's happening to everybody in Uggs. And it's hard for me to feel like we need to go back to Mesomasca and stop Shadowheart from taking over a chain of taverns when this is what's happening to my people.
Right.
And I don't know if I've learned enough. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you can. Here, you can take this rib bone and make it into a violin bow. And if you did that, I'm sure you'd be able to fight the monster. And Kazimir, I don't know how it works for you, because I don't think you use like a focus like this. But there's got to be some way. That's one of the reasons I wanted to come here, was maybe I could teach it to you too, how to cast spells that'll hurt the monsters. But there's so many of them, and they're growing. Well, you're not useless, but you were in that fight, but that wasn't real. It never happened. It never actually happened. And I'm sure you'll be able to with just a little bit of practice. But I don't know. I mean, there's so many of them, and you see how they grow. They either absorb people and get bigger, or then they split, and then there's more of them. And my people are really good at being hidden, but there are also lots of humans in Act, and they're not hidden well enough, I guess, because the monsters are still eating them. And I want to go home too, but I don't know. I want to save everybody, but sometimes you have to decide who's the most important. I don't know how to answer that yet. I feel like if we spend too much more time, it'll be too late.
Yeah.
The last gnome.
No, you don't. That would be a lonely existence.
I can't shake the feeling. I mean, we don't really know the history of them yet. But I have this sense that they were probably created, probably as like a... You know the story of the Doomsday Machine?
No,
It's an old legend about somebody who created a weapon that would fight and grow on its own, and it could regenerate. So if it was damaged, it would recover. And they turned it loose in a war, and it destroyed the target, but then it didn't have anything else to do, so it just kept going, and it destroyed one thing after another until eventually everyone was gone. And I can't help but feel like it's something like that got set loose, and now nobody can control it. But I don't think it's natural. I think somebody made it, and I also want to find out who that was.
True. We don't want to keep Jaiden waiting any longer, though.
So true. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. I have those concerns.
Pressing.
But also the Shadowhar have their vampire thing, and I've never been able to tell. I mean, that's the problem with vampires, you can't tell. But I don't know how many of them there are, and how much they spread. When we were there, when you guys were off in Aslandia, and it was just me and...
Bite.
Well, I know that. I know that.
Yeah, I'm a carrier.
That's as easy as it gets.
But I mean, how many of them there are? Because when Norelai and I were there, and you guys were off in Aslandia, it seemed like it was spreading really fast. But then it's been a few months since then, and it hasn't really taken over. So maybe they just wanted to get a foothold. I don't know. I don't know why it spreads. Sometimes it's fast, and sometimes it's slow.
It's weird how the world works.
Yeah. You two think?
It doesn't matter the decision.
You're cutting out.
It doesn't matter the decision that you tried to. In the end, someone suffered. Someone always suffered. Simply an inevitability. But
It sounds like your mic is too far away.
Is it? Yeah. Is it a voice
it's really
sensitivity?
not, like, right. It's literally right here, and sensitivity is set normally. I don't know why it's.
I could hear that.
Yeah, that batch came out okay.
It is the ping to the server. It's like 250. I mean, it starts to get robotic, but it is inevitable that no matter the decision you make, someone will suffer for it. If you don't wish them to, even if you don't wish, it is simply another inevitability that we face. But the choice that we have is we need to someone. Do you think that with these things that you have, that we might be able to fight off this infection in our?
I think if it was all 4 of us, or especially all 5 of us with Jaiden, and
What is the probability? I know you are a woman of numbers. What is the probability, do you think, of us doing? Because as you've described it, I would say it's most likely not very high.
oh, I think it's really high. I mean, well, it depends on how many there are. Like, where are they coming from? Is there like a den somewhere, or is there a factory that they come out of? I don't have that information. Based on what we saw of the one we fought, yeah, it's tough, and I think somebody who's not prepared wouldn't be able to beat it. But we know a lot of things that other people don't know, and I think if it was all of us working together, and we were all prepared, I think we'd beat it for sure. But that's just one of them. I don't know how many there are.
That you showed me, Bright, I don't have something to fix that.
You do. You just need to learn how to cast wild magic like I have. I know you can do it.
I haven't really been practicing
Oh,
because
you
I'm
can.
kind of scared of the outcomes.
oh, sure. I mean, you might blow yourself up with a fireball, but that's just how magic works. I guess you never went to wizard
Fireball
school.
might not be that bad, but
Cypher just slow turns to Mordecai with a look, and he's like, Mordecai, you know that on the over-under of all 4 of us surviving the fireball, you are the one to survive the most on account of you being a tiefling. Yes?
yes, I'm aware of this.
Then I don't know why you're complaining about a fireball. It's about the worst thing that could happen.
I wasn't complaining about the fireball. I said that's the least of my worries.
Then what is the most of your worry?
That something will happen that I can't reverse. I can't fix. I'm a fixer. If I can't fix something, I'm useless.
Might get a couple of inches shorter. I don't think you can reverse that. But otherwise,
Mordecai, there was a man that I know. He was absolutely clever, a genius beyond all compare. And he was attempting the mother of all experiments. And he failed in his experiments a thousand times. But you want to know what he told me?
Mm-hmm.
He told me that I did not fail 1,000. I simply found 1,000 ways not to achieve.
Huh. Well, I haven't really tested this violin of mine.
Well then, you have created it. See what it is that it's capable of. I myself have a little project that I am working on, which I hope will amplify my particular talent, of which you are not aware.
Uh-huh. Yes, I'm very not aware of what you can do.
Well, as I said, once we get Wild Magic Zone back in town,
I wasn't actually
maybe
where
I
you
might
could
be-
do things. What can you
Yes.
do?
yes, I can actually do things. But
Oh.
I think that's more for when we are in town. Because I tried it out here and this happened.
Okay, good point. Good point.
Yeah.
That was while I
Yeah.
was a plant, so it definitely came out better for me than for you.
Oh yes, very much so. I mean, I may be able to pass through objects. Let's see. I'm gonna attempt to stick my hand through. Okay.
Sure.
Like, to test my incorporeality.
Don't test it on him, test it on this rock. That way you don't
I'm a very
Pull out a
corporeal
kidney.
being, and that feels weird.
He
I
needs
mean,
those
I can
kidneys.
swing axe at you.
Maybe not.
Oh, sure, when it's your kidney.
Oh god,
Okay, so I'm gonna try and cast a spell then, out of my violin,
Okay.
Cypher backs way the hell up.
because I haven't actually gotten a confirmed spell list from you.
The list that you had sent was I was going to go over that with you here in our wrap up. But I mean, what do you want to try casting out of there?
Well, I suppose I'm gonna start with one of the default spells
Sure.
out of the instrument of the bards. I'm going to attempt to cast Fly on myself.
Okay.
Guy like 100,000 feet. He's just gonna go boing.
Go ahead and roll a D10 and a D100. Oh, bless you. 6 and on the 100, a 48.
Because why not?
Okay. So you cast Fly out of off of your instrument here, as the notes seemingly carry you up into the sky. And as you do, Mordecai,
Oh, I forgot I'm afraid of heights.
Well, no time like the present
boy.
to get over it.
you begin lifting into the air, and as you do, let me see.
The unicorn.
I have. Oh, could have sworn I had something like that. I don't see it. All right, well, that's fine. I thought I had a particular art asset. So what's going to happen is you begin to fly up, and Mordecai, as you are gaining height above the verdant valley here of this crater, you're getting a good view that emerging from the brush all around the group, like you see a bunch of palm fronds and ferns and other things that are moving. And with your exceptional sight and given your height, you see that there is some kind of a large herd of horses, maybe, that are kind of coming in from all sides on the party's location. And the horses are normally hard to spot because they have a greenish texture to them with stringy black hair for manes. And they all have a glinting metallic horn coming from their heads. And they are closing in on the location of the group.
Closing in like hostile, like hunting, or are we talking about just walking up?
Well, the fact that normally a pack of horses, let's even say that they're native here, probably wouldn't form into a circle and be moving at a uniform rate to surround a group of people.
There's something going on here.
There's a lot of long grass.
I come down a bit and say, I think we have company.
And as you say that in classic movie fashion, you all are hearing and seeing rustling of the underbrush and leaves, and you can see that there is about a dozen or so of these green and black horses with metal hooves and metal spirals that are boring themselves out of and almost like slowly turning on the horses' heads.
I don't like this.
Certainly interesting.
I don't. Yeah. This is weird. I don't like it.
I mean, weird is part of the job for us.
Yes, but I don't like weird. I like normal.
They open their mouths, like just open their mouths, and from their gums, it looks like screws, metal screws, are screwing down to almost look like pointed teeth.
We should probably get out of here.
We could. Why are they so mean looking?
Because it's a wild magic zone, and creatures are mutated here, and
How many are there?
A dozen.
I just talk to them and say, hello?
With their mouths open, there's a metallic resonation from their throats. They don't even really move their mouths. It's just more of they're kind of just like squirting out meaty metallic sounds. Vampire. Gnome.
Hi.
Elf.
I'll stand off you.
You should come with us.
Where and why?
Also,
With
I am here.
us.
Yeah, they didn't really seem to notice. I figured it was because you're a wraith. Oh, go on, Unicorn. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Sorry, did you say where? And
With
why?
us.
And if we say no?
You then will be made to come with us.
You don't have that right.
You are needed.
For what?
Purpose. They're closing in at a slow pace.
Mm,
And they're all answering in unison without moving their mouths.
Are they clumping together?
They will. But yeah, if they keep moving in on you, because they're surrounding you in a circle.
You know, I'm excited to see where this goes.
I don't.
I have an idea. How about Cypher goes with you and the rest of us stay behind?
The second plan.
Is your major malfunction, Sand Elf?
Hey, it's Kazimir to you. You know name.
Their the horns begin turning more quickly, almost making like a power drill to us style noise. And you also see that the metallic teeth begin twisting in their gums, like
Let
drills.
the friends become for
This doesn't look good. We should leave.
Okay. Mordecai, is your fly spell still in effect?
Some sparks
if
begin
it's
spitting
been
out of
less
their
than
mouths.
if it's been less than a minute,
How long has
Where
it
are
been?
they from us?
I'll say that they're, I don't know, 60 feet away from you. 12 of them in a circle, 60 feet away from you all who are together in the middle of the circle.
yeah. Has it been less than a minute and is fly still active on me?
I'll say you got 2 rounds left on fly, but it's it's near the end of the minute as they've been kind of slowly making their way in here.
Alright, I am going to make it hard for them.
All right, roll a d10 and a percentile.
Why is 10 minutes?
Fly is 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, well. How about that?
Eight
I
and
have 10
seven
minutes. I have 9 minutes left on my fly then. I am going to scoop up Bright. Because she's the one that I can carry because I am a terribly, terribly weak person.
I assume Cypher can just walk through this as Wraith.
Ooh, so this is... Okay. Kazimir, you cause a bunch of plants to grow. And as they do, this is, the plant growth is, it is even beyond your expectations as you invoke this growth magic, and the extra magic potential seizes hold of it. The plants here are spewing out some kind of a pollen or something that seems to almost be fogging the air. And unless any of you are immune to poison, all of you are you have the poisoned condition.
Did not
Mordecai, you might
intend
be
for
immune.
that part.
No, the question is Mordecai immune because of the fact that vampire, and am I currently immune because of the fact that I am an incorporeal being?
Am I immune because I don't want to be poisoned?
Oh well, heck, if that's
because I cast it.
that's why. Being a wraith, you are on. You're kind of on the two different in these two different places that are the same place. I'll tell you what. I'll give you a 50% chance, Professor. Roll a d12, and on a 7+, you're poisoned. Because you lingered around and you got a lungful while you were blinking into this realm for a minute. Okay, so you did seem to get a lungful that you took back into this this other sort of parallel self with you. So you are under the effects of that. Mordecai, you are not. However, Bright, you are poisoned. Kazimir, you are poisoned. And these creatures, though, that are around you as well, do begin making kind of weird gurgling sounds, and flying from their mouths is kind of like a foamy drool.
I think we to leave.
We're gonna leave. Gonna get out of here. Say goodbye.
Mordecai, I need you to take me down so I can touch Cypher and Kazimir.
Okay. And so I get her to that because I have a 60 feet fly speed.
Okay.
So I
and
touch
these
Cypher
things are
and
trying to
Kazimir.
worm through the brush. Okay. I need you to also make a percentile and a d10 roll.
Yes, let's do those things. Okay, so first the D10. I hope that means a good thing. Uh-oh, high number's bad. High number's bad. What does I do? What did I do?
Okay. So what's going to happen, Kazimir and
No! That's unfortunate.
Kazimir
That's
and
really unfortunate.
Professor Cypher, as Bright touches you and imbues you with the ability to fly, both of you are 50 feet tall.
Sorry, what?
As your bodies just this rippling, like it feels weird. It doesn't necessarily feel bad. Your bodies like ripple, and like one of your arms will kind of like fly out 20 feet and then like kind of bulk out and fall because of the weight. But then the rest of your body, and you just kind of, you two are 50 feet tall. You're still proportional.
Kind of like when Popeye eats his spinach. He's like, woo!
But you are,
Gargantuan creatures.
yeah, you are gargantuan.
This works.
Now,
Sure.
question. Are the spells we cast while in this state also proportional?
Is my X proportional?
Look, given the
could
fact
just-
that this is super for wild magic shenanigans,
It's
I
tiny
have
little
to
axe for you.
ask first.
Oh no, my axe.
So, I have an idea on how I might be able to get rid of these guys.
Step on
We
them.
just step on them. I don't know if you-
I will
Yeah,
say
but
your
can I
things
do
are
that?
proportionally grown to you as per the enlarged spell.
Nice.
Oh, as per the enlarged.
Except it's triple
Gargantuan. Sorry, one,
And you can
sorry,
fly.
3.
And you can
large, and
fly.
I can fly. Okay. So my question is, can I summon a massive sword and using my Pact of the Blade and smite dudes?
Now that you're a super giant, we don't have as much to fear from them. Maybe we can see what happens next.
Sure. You want to summon your sword?
I mean, I could do that, but Brian also brings up a good thing is that now that we're a giant, we kind of don't have to be scared of them anymore.
I'm just going to hit
you know
the
what?
cat.
I'm good to see where this goes.
Okay, Kazmir's taking the practical approach and... Sure.
I'm
I
just
am poisoned,
concentrating
so is
on
it still
fly.
disadvantage?
Yes.
Pretty sure.
Okay, you cleave like 4 of them in half.
No.
You know what? Fine. I'm gonna summon my sword.
And as you do, a bunch of, like, it looks like some springs, like, boing, kind of pop out of them. But then the springs kind of, like, start crawling away like they're bugs.
Actually, you know what I might do? You know what I might do? I'm
Wait,
gonna.
I have extra attack.
You cleave more.
I'm gonna.
Even at
actually,
disadvantage, because that's a.
I'm
Poisoned
pretty sure.
attack.
I'm pretty sure. Enlarge gives advantage on.
I don't think that that's.
Doesn't give you advantage on attacks.
Gives you
Just
extra
gives you like a
D4.
+2 or something. Oh, is it a D4? Okay.
It's an extra D4 damage.
That's still.
Oh, you're getting more than just that, so...
Well, I know that, but that's the enlarged spell.
It's still. I just hit punch trees. I'll get them next.
You know what? I'm gonna summon my Pact Glaive. I'm gonna summon the Glaive, not the sword. Because I can choose form and
Sure.
come. And White Sweep number 1.
Mordecai, could you carry me out of the swinging zone? Why are we
yeah.
killing them all of a sudden?
I don't.
No, I'm sad. I
They
didn't want to
threatened
kill
me.
them. I just wanted to make you fly. I didn't even know you were going to get big. I mean,
You
it's
just
pretty
cleave
cool,
through
but
more.
And
Oh.
White Sweep number 2.
why? Why are we killing them all? No.
I don't know. I just asked a question. I was just gonna leave.
Let me put in the damage because apparently it type of.
But like,
It's slashing.
Yeah, you're cleaving through these things. They bust open. One of them, like, breaks open, pours out like a bag of Skittles, except all the Skittles are made of meat. And then some of them begin to, like, look like a snail without a shell and crawl away.
yeah, I think we're good. I think we're
We're
good.
good
We
here.
can just leave.
I'm going to be the massive flying shadow. And I'm going to ascend.
Okay, Professor, away!
So are all the unicorns chopped up?
No, there's, might be a couple left. In particular, there's 3 left.
This isn't what I wanted to happen at all.
Oh boy, if I had a gold piece every time that was the case, right?
What? This is there something that you wanted to do? Because
I
wanted
just
to take
wanted-
us away.
Yeah, I just wanted to make it so they couldn't force us to go with them, so that we could fly away if we wanted to. And then we could maybe negotiate safely from, 40 feet up. But instead, look what happened.
Yeah, I don't think they were gonna let us leave.
No, they weren't going to.
But, I mean, maybe we could have gone with them. Maybe they weren't bad.
They
It does
remind
not
me a
seem
lot
good.
of what happened in Aslandia, actually.
Yeah, I agree.
The three are charging after a giant Kazimir.
I want to shield bash them.
The
Yeah,
lines.
fucking Tom!
Okay. All right. So they begin charging, seemingly ignoring you, Professor. The three charge, and you're just gonna take your shield and
Shield
okay.
tactic.
Yeah. So, I mean, what happens when you're driving and you hit a horsefly in your windshield. It makes a solid splat sound and it leaves a smear.
What do you mean unicorn fly?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, we're just gonna get out of here. We start flying. I'm kind of flying a little closer to the ground
Yeah.
because I'm not a very big fan of heights.
Not
mean,
too close, because you don't want to hit me on a rock.
Even though I've gone like 40 feet up, my feet are probably only like 5 the ground.
This is a good.
I'm like 50 feet tall.
This would be a good time to just kind of back into the hedge.
Sorry, besides, Brian, you get that one last little scoop of dirt while no one's looking. You go, oh, that's pretty good, and then you can get out of there. Just, you're a plant. I mean, how often do you get to eat dirt with no repercussions?
That's fair.
See, you've eaten vegetables all your life. Anyone can do that, but when can you
Yeah.
actually eat dirt?
This is actually.
Dirt was never even alive, so you're not even like killing plants. This is the ultimate.
Yeah, this is an upgrade.
Yeah. All right, so the four of you are going to fly out of there. We have 50-foot tall Wraith Professor Cypher, 50-foot tall Sand Elf Kazimir. Then we have like 3'2" Bright, who's a plant, and then we have Mordecai, who's like 6.
Mordecai.
Yeah, 6-foot blue Mordecai, just kind of blopping out of there.
That was weird.
I'm just gonna go something Mordecai likes taller women because Celine was taller than him.
Bright, tell you what, as you're getting out of here, you're scooping, you're scooping one last little gnome fistful of dirt, maybe to put it in your pocket for later. Roll a d20,
Okay.
just for poops and ha-has.
That 17. That's a good one.
Okay. Noted. Okay, so you have a pocket full of dirt, and you all fly out of there, leaving this very interesting place behind.
Alright. That was weird. They were made out of both machines and plants.
I look
And
like.
I don't like it.
It's like, yes, and I'm 50 foot.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yes,
that'll wear
that's not a
off.
problem, though.
So we should be sure to land as soon as we're.
Right. Land as soon as we are sufficiently far away.
Okay. Yep. So you fly until you can fly no further, as that will take you a good distance up and away from the crater, and you land. Nothing seems to have been pursuing you. Nothing's like not crawling out of the valley.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what, while you all think about your next step and where you're going, if you're going back, I need to get up and take a personal break, and then we can come back and resolve things. And especially because lethality, you have Gathering of Nerds, right?
Yeah, I'm like 90% sure that we do.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll be up for about 5 minutes or so. I'm going to use the restroom, grab a drink, and for all of you out there, we'll come back and we'll get things buttoned up here.